Hey, good morning, everybody. Danse, so gibinisi tish nakas kenutotem. Just wanted to make a video this morning to express my gratitude for life. It's pretty amazing. But also just to say prayers in a good way for, I think there's a lot of First Nations across Canada that are under threat of evacuation from climate fires. From failed Canadian policy over fossil fuel expansion in places like the Alberta tar sands and here in British Columbia with the continued construction of the Coastal GasLink project as well as the Trans Mountain pipeline, the state-owned, state-subsidized tar sands pipeline. I just am completely, I continue to be baffled by just by the ongoing construction, investment, by banks like the Royal Bank of Canada, the Toronto Dominion, by the federal government of Canada, in the expansion of the fossil fuel regime. It's absolutely wild to me how, Canada, continues to point fingers at other economies, particularly in the global south, like the BRIC economies and other economies. And yet, Canada is essentially a petrostate. This country has a revolving door between the fossil fuel sector and government at the federal and provincial and territorial level. Even our own First Nation governments have a revolving door with extractive industries. And, if you look at the situation right now that's unfolding in Osoyoos, here in British Columbia, that community, the video footage from last night is absolutely terrifying. And, my own community last summer, we were supposed to have the first Sundance in Pugatawagan in over 150 years. My brother Perry and I were going to bring that back up there and, work with a bunch of relatives up there to do that in Kingfisher. It's happening this August, thank goodness. But the Sundance was canceled because our entire nation was evacuated due to climate fires. And this year, that unfortunately is the state of affairs for, dozens of First Nations. I mean, it's one of the main bylines in the New York Times this weekend is the fact that Indigenous peoples are paying the externalized costs of Canada's ongoing investment in high carbon intensity extractive industries like the tar sands and like pipelines, and of course the coal sector, and frack gas. And so, it's absolutely crazy to me that in 2023, with the awareness that we have about climate science, that this continues to happen. There's some good work that's happening out there being led by groups like in the United States, Indian Collective, in Alaska, Indian Movement, here in Canada by the Indigenous Climate Action, to support Indigenous nations and grassroots people on the front line to build climate strategies informed by traditional ecological knowledge held by Indigenous peoples. There's work being done by non-native NGOs like STAND on the Global Fossil Fuel Treaty ban, to ban fossil fuels, kind of similar to the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty ban, and that work should be supported. But, irregardless of what work is being done out there, now more than ever, we need to be investing in building the biggest social movement ever in the history of humankind, to stop, in particular, the G8 economies and the military-industrial complex from continuing to keep us locked into, a fossil fuel economy that is literally changing the chemistry of the planet, and that is literally threatening our ability as human beings to survive in the many biospheres where Gishimentu Notawe, where Creator put us. And we're already seeing it's already begun. The largest migration of human beings ever in the history of our species has begun, and never-ending climate-related war, continues to proliferate across the planet. And there's a very easy solution to all of this, and that is addressing greed, because greed is driving this situation. Greed, power, and we need to organize civil disobedience en masse, and really, fuck with the system. If we're gonna, get these people out of power and replace them with people who will make the right choices, make good choices, because it's not just about us. We have a sacred obligation to, speak for those that cannot speak for themselves, and that's our plant and animal relatives that we depend on for our livelihood, for our life. And we have a sacred obligation to protect water. And here in Canada, that responsibility is disproportionate to the rest of the planet, because most of the world's readily available freshwater resources exist in so-called Canada. And so, we got to break down those silos between social movement sectors. In particular, big labor, really needs to open up their war chests and, kind of get back to the spirit of system change. We need to see labor show up, but all social movements need to show up in an intersectional and very sophisticated, multi-pronged campaign, targeting the federal government, targeting decision makers, to transition away from the fossil fuel economy. So I just wanted to give that little rant, and my prayers go out to all the First Nations that are facing displacement due to climate fires, due to climate-related natural disasters. They still haven't rebuilt Lytton First Nation and the community of Lytton, which was destroyed over 2 years ago by climate floods and climate fires. And more communities are joining that list this summer, with wildfires that are burning at a rate. More wildfires have burnt more forest in Canada, a critical carbon sink, than the last 10 years combined. And so we're really at a tipping point here. And we got to do something about it. So, sending you love and prayers, for you all to get activated and to work together in a good way. There are resources out there, like from 350.org, and the Indigenous organizations like Indigenous Climate Action, NGOs like the NGO Stand, where you can find valuable resources on how to organize your community, and even just how to have a informed conversation with your family or your coworkers in your workspace around the dinner table. But yeah, we gotta do something here, because this just can't continue. How igusima.